Hello. So I read 26 books last year. I've been really trying to get back into reading. I ask people a lot if they read, and usually they say yes. And what they actually mean is that they used to read. I know that was my experience with it. I read a lot when I was younger. I fell out of the habit when TikTok and YouTube Shorts destroyed my brain for about 7 years. And about 2 years ago, I got way back into reading, and it reminded me like why I fell in love with reading, why I went to school to be an English major, why I love to write. I forgot how magical books are, and I've been on this journey of like rediscovering how much I enjoy the written word. And I was going to talk about some of my favorite books that I read last year. I read 26 books. I read way more fiction than nonfiction. I'm trying to read more fiction again. I found that I have a blind spot for reading mostly male authors. So I'm trying to read more female authors, and I was able to discover one of my favorite authors through that experiment. So if you're a woman that reads a lot of romantic smut, you should read some novels that's written by dudes because you might actually enjoy them. A few of the books I read kind of defy categorization. I read some philosophy books. I read some classics. I don't really like to rank those. So I was going to talk about my least favorite to most favorite, my top 5 nonfiction, my top 5 fiction. I really want to make a YouTube channel someday. This ain't that. I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm too busy right now. I shouldn't even be doing this. It's supposed to be my relaxing day. I am a little sweaty from having run. So yeah, the first book I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about the ones that I liked the least more briefly. Stolen Focus by Johan Hari. He's kind of a controversial author. Some of his nonfiction has been critiqued for a little bit of pseudoscience. He wrote a book called Chasing the Scream about addiction that I believe has been kind of criticized. This one is about phone addiction and attention span. I actually listened to the audiobook because this is how I got back into reading, but I went ahead and purchased it to support him because it had a huge impact on my life. It just goes into how bad smartphones are for our attention span. It's got a little bit of pop psychology in it. It goes into a couple of methods to try to regulate our attachment to our phones, how bad it is for children. It has a really interesting section by the guy that invented Infinite Scroll, which was like traumatizing, that he invented Infinite Scroll and then they rolled it out on Facebook, and people's Facebook engagement went up by 50% over like the month they rolled that out. And he was viewed as like this hero at the company. And he started to like be haunted by it. That he was, I think in the book it says over 200,000 human lifetimes are consumed because of Infinite Scroll every day. The metrics before and after that was rolled out. So if you're struggling reading, if you used to read a long time ago and you don't read anymore, I assure you books are still really badass. Your attention span just sucks. Get this audiobook. It might change your life. I didn't love the second half. The second half's a little political. I like political books, but that's just not what I was after in reading this one. It goes into like different types of schools, food deficiencies, food deserts, toxins, misinformation on Facebook. I wasn't super into that stuff, not because I'm not interested in that, but I was reading about attention span, so the first half was absolutely killer. All right, I'm gonna jump into some of my DNFs, some of the books that I didn't finish last year, and I got some controversial ones in here. So, The Rain. I was actually really excited about this one. It's about a world in which it starts raining and it never stops raining, and all the people are living in like the rainpocalypse. Just didn't love the writing. I hate to roast other authors, but this guy's self-published a lot of books, and I think this was his first agented trad pub endeavor, and I just didn't love it. Maybe I'll revisit it when I need like an easy read. No Exit, same thing, thriller. I have to be in the mood for these. I've kind of become a snobby reader, unfortunately. It pains me to admit that, but the like pop fiction thrillers just don't do it for me anymore. This was made into a movie, which is actually how I source quite a bit of the books I read. I see a trailer and I'm like, ooh, see, it's based on a book. It wasn't bad. Just I made it about halfway through, didn't finish. What I talk about when I talk about running, I'm like halfway through this. Haruki Murakami, he's a famous Japanese author. I haven't read any of his other work. He's a marathon runner. I really liked it. It's a little dry, and I just wasn't in the mood to finish it. I'll finish it. This is for sure going to get read in the next year or so. All right, here's my controversial one. Stephen King, The Stand. I'm not a Stephen King fan, full disclosure. This is the book that sealed it for me. I've read The Shining. I've read Carrie. I've read one other. I can't remember. I made it about 700 pages in. It's too long. I have this thing with Stephen King where I feel like he mistakes detail for interest, where it's like everything's just hyper detailed, but I'm just not interested. And that's probably a me problem. I know Stephen King is hugely popular. There's another thing I read one time that I can't remember, like the guitar guy, the folk singer. Is he a folk singer? I don't know. I can't even remember. That he was like a nerd's idea of a cool guy. And every chapter with him, that's all I can think the whole time is like he's like a caricature of like a cool blues singer, um, interpreted through the lens of a total dork, which I can relate to because I'm a dork, but it just didn't do it for me. I probably will never read another Stephen King book. I'm out. This was so long. I felt like I poured so much time in it. I started it right after I finished Dune. I was feeling brave about an ode, a big book, and it just wasn't for me. All right, I'll burn through some of the my least favorite to most favorite fiction books. I read a lot more fiction last year. I usually read more nonfiction. I'm trying to read more fiction to help my writing. The first one was The Deep. Was not a fan of this at all. Actually, actively disliked it, and am surprised I finished it. I read one of Nick Cutter's other books, and he's been compared to Stephen King. I enjoy Nick Cutter way more. I read The Troop, which I loved, and so I was really excited about this one. I'm trying to read more horror because my next novel is going to be a straight horror novel, and I love the premise. It's about it's like a combination of like The Thing and The Abyss, which is like my two favorite movies. It's about this deep sea research facility that discovers some mysterious medicine to help cure this disease that is taken over the world, that it makes people forget. It's like Alzheimer's for the whole world, and it slowly is killing everyone, and some scary stuff happens down there. But it just didn't do it for me. I didn't like it. No Country for Old Men. Here's a controversial one. People constantly recommend Cormac McCarthy to me. I'm not a Cormac McCarthy fan, and that is because I am wrong. I know Cormac McCarthy is great. I know he's a super talented writer. I think that might be the problem. He might be too talented of a writer. I find myself not knowing half the words when I try to read his writing. And I'm just honest about it. I feel like some people read it and they're like, yeah, this is good, but they don't understand half of it. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm an idiot. No Country for Old Men. I thought the movie was way better, which is really rare. I have another book, actually, where I thought the movie was way better. So that was near the bottom for me. Oh, here it is. Drive by James Salas. Drive is one of my favorite movies ever made. I was super excited to read this. It's a short read. This was also one of my first books back after I read Stolen Focus. I was very excited to read it. I did not like it. The longer it's been since I've read it, the more I realized I didn't like it that much. I think I had rose-tinted glasses when I read it because it is kind of cool, and I feel like there's not many novels written anymore that are just for men, and this is like a dude novel. Women purchase 80% of novels. Fun fact. So most novels are written for women now. But yeah, it is cool. It's got some, strangely, how much of a reading nerd I am, it's got some really good descriptions of food in it, which is like a weird thing to be excited about as a reader, but that's like where my brain is now. That's the kind of books I like to read, is like beautiful prose. I'm not super into pop fiction anymore. The biggest downside, my favorite part of the movie is the love story. The love story in this is like 2 pages. The Carey Mulligan character from the movie is only in this book for like 2 pages. So I was very sad about that. Other than that, cool story. It was good to get introduced to like noir. It was kind of my introduction to the noir genre. Did I say that wrong? Noir. But no, it does hit that flavor of writing really well. I just didn't love it. What we talk about when we talk about God, this is one of my non-fictioners. It's basically like a physics, science look from a pastor. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. It was pretty cool. I've read a lot of like science theology combo. I've read a lot of books on atheism and science-y religion. I can't remember. Francis Collins, the guy that did the Human Genome, wrote a book. I can't remember what it's called, but I read that one. I've read God Is Not Great. I've read Dawkins' book. I've read a lot of Bertrand Russell. I've read The Science of Faith. That's the Collins book. I've read Letter to a Christian Nation. I've read a lot of Sam Harris. So I'm just super well read on like the atheist slash, and I've read a lot of on the other side. I've read a lot of C.S. Lewis. I've read Mere Christianity. I've read the Screw Tape Letters. So I've read a lot of Christian apologetics, and I've read a lot of atheist sciencey books. And this is like a layman version of that. I know that might sound kind of snooty, but it's just a subject I've read too much about. It was a very surface level engagement with that. It does have a good quote in it, which was, "Science can tell us that we used to have tails, but it can't tell us why we think that's interesting." I was like, oh, that's a good quote. This one, Artificial Wisdom. I've liked this one less and less as I've thought more about it, which is kind of strange. I was really excited about this. I pre-ordered this book. I found it on TikTok. Got some really good reviews. It's not bad. My reading habits have gotten really snobby. I've read a lot, and I know what I like when I read, and I just don't love pop fiction. And this is really pop fiction-y. It's very like easy read. It's almost got the Michael Crichton thing going, where it's like it's about something that's like scientifically dense, but it's written like pop fiction. It's got a really cool premise. It's about the first presidential election between an AI and a real person. So it's kind of cool. It's basically like global warming's destroying the world, and so we're trying to pick a president that's going to fix it. And we're electing a dictator, which is, I believe, Greek or Roman term for like somebody that's in charge of everything. And it's a runoff between the president of the United States or a previous president of the United States and an AI named Solomon. Super cool concept. It's got a lot of like Matrix-y stuff. It's written by a tech bro billionaire guy. So it's got a lot of inside tech bro-y stuff. But I don't know. It's got this detective story about halfway through that I thought was the most interesting part of it. And I feel like, okay, this is what I'm going to say. I feel like this is written by somebody that this is their first book. That's all I'm going to say. I see a lot of mistakes that people make when they first start writing in it. Prey, speaking of Michael Crichton, this was also one of the first ones when I was getting back into reading that I read. I enjoyed it. It is what it is. It's pop fiction. Michael Crichton does it better than anybody else, really. So it was good in that sense, but didn't change my life. It's about what do they call them? Like nano machines that can form any shape, and they are like replicating. It's like something scientists have made, and they're replicating. And they're like eating everybody. Ancillary Justice. This was an interesting one. I actually bought this book years and years ago. It was a Hugo and Nebula Award winner. So anytime they win a bunch of awards, I always get excited to read them. So I read about 50 pages like 2 or 3 years ago, and I wasn't into it. It has this thing where there's no genders for the characters, and being kind of burnt out by woke politics, I was like, oh god, I don't want to read like a treatise on gender in my sci-fi like shoot 'em up book. But I read more into it. I came back to it a couple years later, and it's actually a really cool device in the book where everyone is referred to as she, but some of the cultures in the book have gender and some don't. So you can read like half the book with a she character and then realize through context clues that it's like a masculine ass dude. But since there's no gendered language, everyone's just she. And I thought that was kind of cool because like once you realize it, you start to fixate on the characters and try to decide like what gender they are, or at least what gender they present as. But it ended up being a really cool, non-preachy, kind of deconstructive of gender and gender norms. All of that outside of, it's about these AIs that serve, it's been a while. I read this at the beginning of last year. It's about these AIs that serve these huge ships, and one of them gets kind of cut off. And it's about her little adventure as like a kind of a rogue AI. So I actually really did like it. It almost cracked my top 5. It was good. Bird Box was good. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw the movie, which is why I got it. Netflix. Now a Netflix film. I thought the book was actually way better. It was way more interesting. The book does a way better job of explaining that like the villain of the story, the monster, is like curiosity. So it's like the people just want to fucking see what the thing looks like. And so I thought they did that really well. Like the curiosity of like, why are we as humans so curious? Like, why would it be challenging to not just like look out your window if there's a monster out there? But yeah, I didn't. It was good. Pop fiction. It was good. Annihilation. I actually read this like 2 or 3 years ago. I just wanted to include it because I really liked it. It almost cracked my top five. Really interesting, weird book. The movie is one of my favorite movies of the last probably decade. Really good movie. I think that was probably one of the downsides is that I like the movie more, which is crazy that I picked three books and all three of them I like the movie more. But Annihilation, Drive, and No Country for Old Men are three incredible movies. So it is like that sometimes. It's rare, but it is like that. It's about this weird zone that's growing and like making everything LSD, phantasmagorical if you go into it. And it's about these series of expeditions they send into the X Zone X, I think it's called. But it's cool. It's really weird. It's kind of hard to explain if it's scary or if it's just weird or I don't know. I found parts of it to be scary, even though they're not like overtly scary. Like there's this one part where it makes a bunch of weird animals. The Zone X does, and there's this dolphin swimming, and she's looking for her husband in Zone X, and it like looks at her. The dolphin does, but it just has a human eye. Everything else is like dolphin like, except its eye is like human, and she thinks it's like her husband's eye, and it's just weird. It's just creepy, and it's written kind of pretty. So, oh, Project Hail Mary. This one got a lot of hype. I know people love this book. I really liked The Martian. I loved The Martian, actually. I was a hipster with The Martian. I read it. I read it right when it came out. I went to Barnes and Noble. It had come out like a week before. I saw it at the front, read the back, was like, oh, this looks cool. Read it in like a night, and then called my dad and said, this is going to be made into a movie. 100%. This will be a movie. And like 2 years later, Ridley Scott, The Martian came out. So called it. The Martian's about a guy that gets stranded on Mars and has to survive for like a year. Project Hail Mary is about this dude that's hurling through space, and he wakes up and he's all alone in a spaceship. And I literally read the first 20 pages and I was like, brother, you cannot write the same book twice. This is literally the same book. Lone man lost in space, that's kind of funny. And then I got like 75 in and I was like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. So I felt kind of duped because I was trying to resist letting him get away with writing the same book twice. And then he got me. So damn you, Andy Weir. You write really funny books. The thing about this book is that I thought the humor in The Martian worked a little better because it was just like this guy that was like stranded and kind of talking to himself and maybe going a little crazy, so the humor made sense. I feel like the humor doesn't work near as well in Project Hail Mary. Not in that it's not funny, because it is funny, but he's on this mission to save all of mankind. And so his humor just doesn't quite make as much sense because he's clearly in a way more dire situation where all of humanity is relying on him. And that kind of, I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything because there is some really cool stuff in this book. But I feel like there's another version of this book written with the exact same idea. Kind of reminded me of Arrival, the movie. Written with the exact same idea that's like really serious and deals with like the philosophy of what's happening. And this book ain't that. If you've ever seen Sunshine, like kind of like Sunshine deals with kind of the emotional and psychological toll the mission's taking on the people, this ain't that. But suffice to say, this could probably be your favorite book of the year if you read this book and you like to read more casually. It's a really good book. All right. I rated this book separate. I read A Farewell to Arms by Hemingway. I will never rank classics in my favorite or least favorite for the year because they live in their own world. I really liked it. Hemingway's writing style is not quite my thing. I don't really like the brutalist, stripped down prose, like the hyper simple, no flashy punctuation. It's just not what I like. That said, it's obviously really good. If you're reading a classic and you don't think it's good, you're wrong. It's literally that simple. There's a reason famous books and famous movies and famous art outlive us, and it's because they are great outside of us. So it doesn't really matter how I feel about it. It's great. No, it was really good. It reminded me of that scene in Silver Linings Playbook where he reads A Farewell to Arms and throws it out the window. Because I did want to throw it out the window after I finished it. It is a really sad book. All right. My top 5 fiction, I actually did top 4 because I feel like top 5 is like they need to be special. And there was only 4 books that I thought were really special that I read last year. I'll start with Dune. I actually finished Dune last year. I did not start it. This is a pretty long book. There's nothing I can really say about Dune that hasn't already been said. I kind of had the same reaction to Dune as I did when I saw Casablanca. I got dragged to see Casablanca with my dad at the movie theaters when it re-released, and I was like 20. I was like, I don't want to go see this old black and white movie. And Casablanca's so good. I was like, oh my god, this movie's incredible. And I felt the same way about Dune. Everyone tells you how great Dune is. I've never met anyone that read it and wasn't like, it's awesome. And then I read it with really high expectations, and I can't describe how much it exceeded them. Dune is like a special book that I feel like I can't even compare to other books because it's its own thing. It's like a geology, theology, philosophy, plot-driven, sci-fi, biblical. It's just it stands outside of what books can be to me. It's just its own thing. It's like its own magical. The closest thing I can compare it to is like a religious text. It's like, to me, it was like that profound. But yeah, it's a really special book. I recommend it to everyone. I know it's over recommended. I know it's the classic pseudo intellectual white guy book. But again, I come back to Casablanca. Casablanca's the classic, like, oh, that's the greatest love story ever. And then you watch it and you're like, oh shit, it actually is. That's what Dune was to me. So I almost kind of hesitated to put it anywhere because it kind of just lives as probably the best book I'll ever read in my 30s. Next, I had The Exorcist. I actually read this at the beginning, like the first week of this year. The Exorcist is incredible. It's probably one of the most beautifully written books that I've read in the last couple years. And it is exactly what I want in a book. And that's what I'll say if you watch this far, which you probably didn't. I have kind of weird reading taste in that it's a little bit snobby, and I'm really concerned with writing more so than I'm concerned with plot. I'm way more interested in a beautifully written paragraph than I am like Angels and Demons, the Da Vinci Code. How are they going to defuse the bomb? That's just not what I what I look for when I read books anymore. That said, if you hit me with a dope ass plot and some good writing, I'm in. And so that's my favorite genre, upmarket fiction. So there's a couple different types of books, of fiction books. There's genre fiction, which is like the deep, like horror, detective, thriller. There's literary fiction, which is like way too masters in fine arts, snobby. I still enjoy them, but they're like really prose heavy, very little plot. And then there's the happy medium, which is called upmarket fiction, which is a combination of literary fiction and genre fiction, which is where you make a beautifully written, outstanding prose, kind of poetic novel, and you wrap it up as horror, which is super cool. I would call my novel that I'm working on right now upmarket fiction, where it has a detailed plot, but it's also really concerned with like the psychology and philosophy and being like pretty to read. So that was The Exorcist. I was actually kind of blown away with how beautifully written this book was. There's several sections I have bookmarked because I was just like, damn, how do you write a paragraph like that? He's got a really good grasp of punctuation. I'm a sucker for punctuation. William Peter Blatty, he does a little bit of experimental stuff with punctuation that I think just really works. And I try to emulate when I write. So this was my discovery, Tana French. This was so that was number 4. This was number 3. Wait, is that right? No. Whatever. This book was really, really, really good. So I'm trying to read more female authors. I got Station 11 is going to be one of my next reads. But I discovered Tana French. I was really captivated by some of the blurbs in this one, like what other writers had said about it. It's about this Chicago detective that moves to Ireland to try to live kind of a quiet life. This is the ultimate upmarket fiction novel. If I ever wanted to explain to like a layman, like, what is upmarket fiction? Because I was kind of confused about it. I would see agents request upmarket fiction when I was trying to get my book published, and I'd be like, what is that? This is that. Plot-driven, what's going to happen next, mixed with the most beautiful lyrical prose maybe that I've read in like the last decade. This is such a beautifully written book. There was sections that I just reread, specifically the way it describes like this picture, the myriad of ways it describes kind of the rolling grain and the green and the steady rain of Ireland. Girl, so good. So good. Tana French is probably my favorite author right now. And I will say, this is how snobby with reading I've gotten. I'm about to finish this. I'll probably finish it tomorrow. I got another book by her, Into the Woods. Everyone says that this book won an award. It won the Edgar Award for mystery. Everyone says that this book is way better than this book. I like this one so much more. I'm struggling to finish this one because this one is a genre fiction. It's mystery, detective mystery. This is not genre fiction. This is upmarket. So this one is way more concerned with what's going to happen, who done it. Tana, I don't want that, girl. Give me those pretty ass paragraphs. That's what I want. So, far and away, my favorite fiction novel that I have read. This might be number one for my 30s. Dune is its own thing. It's a tome. As far as just a pure fiction novel, Galveston by Nick Pizzolatto, this will be a classic. Mark my words. In like 50 years, this is going to be a book that's read for Masters of Fine Arts students on how to write compelling stories. It is by the guy that wrote and directed and made True Detective. For all my True Detective fans out here, I was researching that guy because True Detective Season 1 is probably my favorite piece of media ever created. And I realized he had written a novel and that he was a creative writing teacher for a long time. But this book is so good. What does it say on the front? The best Roman noir I've read in a decade. Dark, brutal, sexy, sad, filled with so much drop-dead, gorgeous writing that I felt authentic envy while reading it. My exact experience. I read this and I was like, you son of a bitch. Give me your power. A stormy and savage debut novel. Galveston is a haunting and haunted tale. Beautifully rendered, an uncommonly well-written thriller. See, that's where you get upmarket. Uncommonly well-written thriller. Like, is it a thriller or is it like philosophy? In its descriptions of people struggling to escape the gravity of the past amid a ruinous landscape. Galveston is an assured debut full of hard truths, a throwback novel that ends up shouldering the noir genre going forward. Anyways, so good. It's about this kind of enforcer debt collector that works for the Ukrainian or Russian mob, and he gets double-crossed. They try to kill him. He ends up escaping and rescuing a 18-year-old prostitute from the house they were going to murder him at. And it's kind of a deconstruction of the like badass and damsel in distress. It's almost like kind of a commentary on that trope. But they run away to Galveston, and it's almost like a realistic rendering of like how silly that trope is. Like, what are I'm gonna be your dad, and we're gonna run away to the countryside, and I'm gonna protect you. So it's basically that kind of falling apart, and it does something that is so rare in art that it like made me take a moment. No Country for Old Men, the movie, tried to do this as well, and I think this does it better than No Country for Old Men in the movie, where it sets up an ending that you as the reader are expecting. You think No Country for Old Men, you're expecting the showdown between the two main characters. You don't get it, right? And you're like, that's bullshit. At least that's how I felt the first time I watched No Country. This does the exact same setup. It sets up a protagonist-antagonist standoff. It does not give you that as a reader, and then it gives you something better. And I just found that unbelievable because, like, it's almost like this moment where you feel like you're in good hands with a storyteller. You're like, oh. Like, I finished it and I was like, Nick, I am sorry. You were right. I was wrong. I can't believe I even wanted that thing to happen. You were right. So, Galveston's really special. This was probably the fifth or sixth book I read on my streak back to fiction, and it was like the first book I read where I was like, oh, I remember why books are special. And I had the same sensation when I read The Searcher. Not quite Not quite as good, but it was still a really special book. As far as nonfiction, Dopamine Nation, kind of a terrifying book about addiction. So good. Had a huge effect on me. Has a ton of interesting studies in psychology that if you know me personally, I've probably already ranted you about. I had a couple of friends read it too and really liked it. War by Sebastian Junger, super good about PTSD and war, why we fight wars, why men get kind of addicted to war. But yeah, it is like just this one. I have a bunch of pages earmarked, and it's fascinating to see. I can turn to any page and get something. Get something so interesting. Like what was this one? Collective defense can be so compelling, so addictive, that eventually it becomes the rationale for why the group exists in the first place. I think almost every man at Restrepo secretly hoped the enemy would make a serious try at overrunning the place before the deployment came to an end. It was everyone's worst nightmare, but also the thing they hoped for the most. Some ultimate demonstration of the bond and fighting ability of the men. For sure, there were guys who re-upped because something like that hadn't happened yet. After the men got back, I asked Bobby Wilson if he missed Restrepo at all. I'd take a helicopter there tomorrow, he said. Then, leaning in a little softer, most of us would. So yeah, this is just a book about war, why men get addicted to war, why we make them fight it, why they're good at fighting it, why they can't stop fighting it. Just an unbelievable book. Tribe, same author, Sebastian Junger, really talented author. Tribe is a really good read if you're into nonfiction. Super short read. I recommend it to a ton of people. It's about why humans are so tribal, and it's actually one thing I found most interesting about it is it has a ton of stuff about that's like optimistic about how we have this view that like if there was some cataclysmic event, it would be like Mad Max and we'd all steal from each other. And this book goes into it's actually the opposite. When you put humans in like extreme duress, our default is to help each other. It's just the reality. If you study any, like they go into a lot of the mining disasters where mines collapse and people get stuck underground. It's never Lord of the Flies chaos. It's food sharing. It's a leader is born. Our spirits crave a group to die for. And that's what the book's about. It's about the two things that make up a tribe are food sharing, and everyone in the tribe is willing to die for someone else in the tribe even if they don't like them. That's it. Those two. If you get those two things, humans become like they'll form like basically families. And so it just talks about that. That's why it talks about PTSD. Why PTSD is so bad is because people lose the tribe. It's not even so much the combat, that's part of it, but it's that losing the tribe when they come back. Suddenly they're at Target stocking shelves, and Judy 3 aisles over ain't gonna die for me, and I ain't gonna die for her. And when they lose that, it's very damaging to the psyche. So yeah, I really love Tribe. It was probably my favorite that I read. And then I read 2 philosophy books. I read this one over the course of like 3 years, Seneca, Letters from a Stoic. I read 1 letter a day, every other day-ish. And then it's outstanding book. And then The Complete Works of Epictetus. I don't know, you'll find different pronunciations. This is called The Enchiridion. Most of the famous Stoics were really rich. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of the known world, basically king of the world. Seneca was the richest man in Rome. Greece, I don't know. Who cares? Epictetus was a slave. He was a slave for 12 years. So he was the only one that like was a Stoic, but like really put it to the test. The inner citadel, being happy even when his body was broken and he was miserable. He would not give that control over to his slave master. So yeah, really good book. Actually, I haven't finished it. I don't know. It's long. It's a lot. So I'll probably finish this year. That's what I got. Maybe you listened, maybe you didn't. Start reading books. Books are great.